What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here. Apologies in advance if you hear the dogs walking around getting restless, because for some reason, anytime I want to do a video, they're like, time to walk and make a bunch of noise, right? But anyways, we are on to the round of 16 for the World Cup, moving on to the quarterfinals next. And it is kind of funny because I went back and watched my last video just to see kind of what my thoughts were going into the round of 16. And I start the video by saying, I'll attempt to make predictions about who's going to go through. And I said jokingly, as if anybody could actually predict what's going to happen. And then I go on to predict exactly what's going to happen. Now, granted, with each game, I did sort of go into it with I think they're going to win, but I could see it going either way. So it wasn't like I was saying this is definitely what's going to happen. But when I gave my thoughts on who I thought was going to go through, I was correct on every single one. So, bully for me. And if you're sitting there wondering, hey, are you going to go get a lottery ticket because of that? No, because I used up all of my luck calling those games. So my luck is gone now. I'm probably going to get all of these wrong for the round of for the quarterfinals. But anyways, I'm going to go ahead and talk about all of the games individually because I did sort of what I was worried was going to happen. And when I say worried, I mean more from a neutral point of view. Because honestly, I do have some teams that I would like to see win it, would like to see them given a chance. Also, the underdog story is always a fun one. So there were some stories that I was hoping would continue into the quarterfinals. But unfortunately, from a neutral point of view, all these games kind of went exactly as expected, bar one. And I think a lot of that is down to what I was talking about in the last video, where the best teams now are going to show how good they are because they have the depth and the legs to carry them through. Where some other teams who did well in the group stage, had a lot of fight and a lot of spirit, managed to get that one win that put them through, they've lost their energy now. They don't have the same depth coming off the bench. U.S. is a good example because you look at our starting 11, pretty good starting 11, but most of them played all three matches of the group stage, and then they started the first round of the knockouts as well. You go past that, aside from a couple players, it's all MLS level quality, which... Not saying that MLS can't be quality, but it isn't quality. Your best players there are going to leave next year or they're retiring next year. So, but because of that, a lot of these matches did end up being very straightforward. The team that should go through did go through. So there's not a whole lot to talk about in that respect, but I will try to tackle each one individually, kind of what my thoughts on it were. I will admit there were a couple games, Brazil and Portugal, I didn't watch for the most part because the games were over so quickly that it was just like, they're not coming back. So, but we'll kick it off with Netherlands versus USA. Again, I will quickly go over my thoughts from a U.S. fan point of view, wanting my country to do well in the World Cup and all that. So obviously, I'm not a big fan of Berhalter, and it's part of why I haven't done any reviews for the U.S. because I just don't think he's the best man to carry us through. Granted, I don't necessarily think that there is a coach that could have been in for this World Cup that would have taken us past Netherlands. I don't think that's possible. We don't have the level of quality yet. We have a decent base to build off of. Our midfield is pretty solid. Our attack, we've got some good players, but they're all young. They're all pretty inexperienced when it comes to the World Cup and this high level of competition. And then you look at our defense, and it's just not good enough. And just to get on my soapbox really quick, I do think that comes down a lot to how the soccer, football is shown in the States. If you listen to some of the commentary, if you watch Fox Sports, their coverage of the World Cup, who are they talking about? They're talking about Mbappe, Messi, Ronaldo, Neymar. All of these fantastic attacking talents. Guess who they're not talking about? Thiago Silva, Ruben Diaz, Virgil van Dijk, which, not that I think Van Dijk's a great defender, but they're not really focusing on the defensive side of things. Occasionally, if it's a 0-0 draw and one defender really has several, great clearances or blocks, saves, whatever, then they'll focus on them. But for the most part, when they're building up to the match, when they're focusing on, who won this game, all they're talking about is the attacker. And I mean, you listen to John Strong and Stu Holden go off on and on and on about Mbappe, about Neymar, Charles. Whenever they're covering matches, those are the players that they focus on. And it's almost like they can do no wrong. I one line from John Strong that really just made me want to find him and punch him in the face. Not that I actually would, but he's sitting there talking about Mbappe. Oh, we were just talking about a minute ago, Didier Deschamps getting all upset because he wouldn't go defend, and now look at him scoring a second goal. That's not okay. Like, you can't just ignore your coach just because you scored a goal. It's a team sport. But the way that American commentary looks at it, it's not a team sport. It's that one great attacking player that's just so good, nobody can handle him. He is the reason the team's doing well. It's just him. And that's a lot of kids growing up. They're watching this World Cup. They hear all of the praise that these guys are getting, and they're like, "Oh, I want to be like him. I want to be like Mbappe. I want to be like Ronaldo. I want to be like Messi." Nobody's growing up thinking, "I want to be like Silva. I want to read the game so well that even at 38 years old, I'm still a great defender. Because I'm not the fastest, I'm not the strongest, but you know what? I'm intelligent enough. I read the game well enough. I defend well." And it makes my teammates better because I win the ball back and we can attack more. That's the side of the game they don't focus on. So we don't really get a whole lot of great defensive talent coming through our youth squads because most kids don't want to grow up to be defenders. So that's something that just, again, a little bit of a soapbox rant there, but it is frustrating that our best defensive talent was Ream, who's at Fulham, Robinson, who's at Fulham, Zimmerman, who's in the MLS, Cameron Carter-Vickers, who only featured one game, and then Dest, who, honestly, I don't even see him as a defender, really. Like, he's much better in the attack, although he wasn't that great in this tournament, but he looks good going forward, but defensively he gets caught out a few times. So it's just, defensively, we were not very well set up. And then I think Berhalter, again, while I don't think he could have taken us further than against Netherlands, I do think we could have done a bit better in the group stage, which would have set us up a bit better, and we could have been facing Senegal instead of facing the Netherlands, and that might have given us a better chance of advancing to the quarterfinals. But a lot of that, again, we don't have the defensive talent, and then Berhalter, he's not tactically, technically intelligent enough to figure out how to set this team up. The one thing he did well was set us up to be aggressive and really work hard, and I think that's where we got a couple of our good results, the draw against England and then the win against Iran. But outside of that, once that wears off, we don't have much talent, and that showed in the game against the Netherlands. They clearly had much more, not just talent, but also much more endurance and stamina. And I didn't watch the game, so I don't know if they did this or not, but I do wonder, did they rest some of their starters against Qatar in the final match? And that's why a lot of these guys still look fresh, or is it just because that's how they are? They play so much and they play at a high level, so a lot of these guys, they are still fresh even after 3 games back to back. But I'm willing to bet they did rest a couple players, which we didn't really. So anyways, long story short, obviously Netherlands come out the deserved winner. They were much better than us. I wish we could have given a little bit more of a fight, a little bit more of a scare, but ultimately the game was over in the first half. And while we still worked hard and we still, on the base of things, looked as good a team on the run of play, it was the finishing that really showed the gaps in quality between us and the Netherlands. On to the second match, though, Argentina-Australia. This one was a little bit more interesting because even though Argentina ran out deserved winners, it wasn't straightforward for them. Australia, their game plan did change a little bit because their good wins in the group stage came from scoring first and then holding on defensively, basically parking the bus. And this one, they got scored on first, so it wasn't the same, I guess, setup that they were used to. But they still, in my opinion, fought back really well. I think it went 2-0, and in the second half they turned things around, managed to get a goal back, and then suddenly near the end of the game they're creating chances, have a chance to equalize. I mean, Argentina still looked pretty good against them, but I think it was really interesting to see Australia come with a lot more energy and put them under a bit of pressure in the second half and show Argentina, while they look better now, while they are playing better as a team, they still have some gaps in their team that's going to, in my opinion, keep them from reaching the later stages. But we'll see kind of what happens in the next round. With that, though, I do believe, if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure that it was the 2 games that happened on the same day. They're going to play each other next. So Netherlands versus Argentina. It's going to be a bit of a toss-up again. For Netherlands, I look at it and see, well, they haven't really faced a true test yet. Senegal, maybe if they had Mane, would have been a bit more of a test. The U.S., where we were, the lack of energy that we had because of how many players had played most of the group stage, all of the group stage, I do think we didn't really offer them a true test either. So Argentina will be the first time that they face a good team. Argentina, on the other hand, they've already faced a couple teams that were better put together. Australia did look pretty solid as a team. Mexico, I thought, looked pretty good. Poland could have given them more of a test, but didn't. So they've already faced a couple of good teams. They had their scare already, the hiccup against Saudi Arabia in the first match, which caused them to sort of, I guess, wake up a bit. So both teams are coming from different ends of the spectrum, in my opinion. So I don't really know what to expect. If I had to guess, just based on what I've been seeing, it looks like Argentina's attack is starting to click better. Because it took that first game and a half really for them to find their form and their flow. Messi, he's a great player, but if you don't have players around him that are working off of him, if they don't know how to play off of him, he's not going to be as effective as he normally is. But they've started to find that rhythm of working alongside him, and I think because of that, they're probably going to give Netherlands a little bit more than they can handle defensively. Netherlands' attack does look pretty solid, but this is also, again, the first time they're facing a really solid back line. You're not a fantastic one, but a solid one. Senegal, as much as I hate to say it, they didn't look good. Koulibaly, Mendy, love having them at Chelsea, but they are not in the best of form right now, and they carried that bad form into the tournament. They did not look good. So they haven't really faced anybody that's been really compact back there. I think Argentina has that capability to pack it in. So I think Argentina's probably going to take it, but it's not completely sold on it. It could go either way. Into the next set of games, France-Poland was the first one. Kind of what I expected, especially based on Poland's last game against Argentina. They really were just trying not to get scored on too much, but they didn't really look good. They looked winded. They looked defeated. When I saw they were playing France in the first match, I'm thinking there's no way they're getting past them. And yeah, it was very, very one-sided match. Their one goal coming off of a last-second penalty. So it's not too surprising to see this one. For France, though, they're putting good performances together. The team is working very well off of each other, too. So it's, as much as they want to talk about Mbappe and this is his tournament and blah, 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 what it is you've got a great striker in Giroud that's playing that position very, very well. He's the target man, but he's also drawing defenders around, opening up space for Mbappe to really get the job done. And you've also got, Griezmann in there who's working hard. Rabiot and Tchouaméni, I think is his name. Both of them are, even though they're not, in my opinion, as good as Kanté or Pogba, they're holding down the midfield pretty well. And then, of course, you got a very solid back line. So it's a good overall team and not the best put together team, but in my opinion, one of the better teams if you just look at the quality all around the field. So not too surprising. And then England did manage to pick themselves up and put themselves together because they, after the draw against the U.S., and even after the win against Wales, while the Wales result was convincing, it was going to be more required of them against Senegal. Well, Senegal doesn't really look the best team at all at the moment. They're still a team that they have enough energy and they have enough pace where if you're not ready to play, they can hit you pretty quickly and hurt you. So for England, coming off of a pretty easy game against Wales, it was going to be a question of could they put together another good result and another good performance against Senegal, who is going to be a difficult opposition, and they managed to do it. So for them, that'll give them a nice boost, especially going in against France. They're going to need that sort of energy boost from beating a team that could have hurt them. So the two teams that did pick up the wins that they were expected to pick up, now they're going to be facing off against each other. I don't know. I think... Personally, I think France will probably have a little bit more quality than England. But at the same time, if Maguire does a good job, because he has been playing pretty well, even though I like to make fun of him because he's not good at Man U, he has been having a good, solid tournament. Stones has been playing well. Shaw and Trippier, Walker, the fullbacks have looked a little shaky at times. They've not been the best, but in the midfield, Rice, Bellingham, Henderson, all good, solid players. Up top, you've got Foden, who's looking on top of his game right now. Rashford's looking strong. Kane is looking strong. They're all playing pretty well at the moment. France, if they kind of drop off a little bit, or if they let them have too much possession, could easily turn around on them. So it's probably going to be one of the matches of the tournament until the final. I personally think, though, France are going to win. It's my prediction. We'll see what happens. Japan, Croatia, one of the ones that could have easily gone either way. Croatia did look, in my opinion, more like a put-together team than Spain and Germany. So I did expect them to give Japan more trouble. But honestly, Japan did a good job defensively. They did a really good job of holding things together. It was kind of the opposite of what we've been seeing from them. They started the first half very well. They got the goal. And then second half, they sort of packed it in, which allowed Croatia to have a lot more time and chances on the ball. Where most of their group stage was starting a bit slower, getting scored on, and then second half turning it around and winning the game. So it was sort of interesting to see Japan take initiative in the first half and score that goal first. But Croatia, like I said, just much more put together team, managed to get that goal back, and they were always looking to threat going forward. Not that Japan didn't have their chances, but of the two, it really looked like Croatia was more likely to get the winning goal. The fact that it went all the way to penalties, good, exciting, football for everybody to enjoy. And penalties are always a crapshoot. I honestly, my thought process watching that set of penalties was, well, Croatia have more talent, than Japan does. Where in the flow of play, if you have a good team, even if the other team is more talented, if they're not playing as good as, I guess, they're not playing as a team as well as you are, then you can beat them on the run of play. Once you get to penalties, though, it's more about individual talent, and Croatia just had more individual talent than Japan did. That's what I thought until a later penalty shootout, which I'll get to, but that's kind of what it felt like. A lot of these Japan players didn't look comfortable stepping up to take a penalty. They looked a little shaky. They weren't the best struck penalties, and Croatia was just easily tucking them away for everyone. So deserved penalty shootout win for Croatia, but they didn't have it their own way. It was a tough challenge and one of the more exciting group stage matches, knockout stage matches, even if it did end in kind of the expected result, which is Croatia winning. And then you get into the next game, which was not at all exciting. Again, Brazil, South Korea. After the first 10 minutes, I was kind of done watching. I still kept an eye on the game just to see if anything happened, but I just kept seeing goal after goal and then dance after dance after dance. And it got old really quickly. I'm not really a fan of the super elaborate celebrations. I'm much more a fan of the knee slide, punch in the air. That's perfectly fine. So I'm already not a fan of the dancing, but then on top of that, you add that they danced again after they did their first dance. And I'm just like, okay, one dance per goal, please? Because if you guys keep dancing, then we're just going to be here forever watching a dance, and I could just go to a concert for that. And I don't really want to go to a concert. I'm trying to watch football here. But I'm not a fan of a lot of Brazil's attack. As much as I like Thiago Silva, I don't like Neymar, I don't like Richarlison, I don't like Jesus. Who else is up there? Antony from Man U. Just so many players, Casemiro, so many players I don't really like because they're kind of chippy, they dive a lot. It's pretty frustrating to watch them. So whenever they're beating up on a South Korea team that was honestly lucky to make it out of the group stage and they're dancing in their faces, it's just kind of like you're almost like a high schooler beating up on a fifth grader and acting like, oh, I'm so big and strong. It's like, what? Yeah, he can't defend himself. He's a kid. That's what it kind of felt like to me. So it wasn't that fun of a match from a neutral point of view. And again, as somebody who doesn't really like a lot of Brazil's front line, wasn't a fan of that either. So, but between those two, Croatia and Brazil, will be more of a challenge for Brazil. I do still expect them to come out the winners. I don't think it'll be a blowout. I think it'll be a lot closer. Croatia might even take them to extra time. But I do think Brazil, I mean, their quality right now, the way they're playing as a team, they look one of the better teams in the tournament. In my opinion, probably the best team. When you just look at the quality throughout the field and then also how well they're playing together, it just seems very likely that they're going to have the better run in the tournament, probably all the way to the final. But we'll see what happens. Into the final set of games, Morocco-Spain. This is the one I was talking about. Yeah, I mean, first of all, from Morocco's point of view, great performance. They played well against the Spain side that looked solid, created a lot of chances, but Morocco almost equaled them in chances, I think. So it was a very close match. Could have gone either way, and then all the way into penalties. And you're thinking, again, my thought process, what I thought against the Croatia and Japan game. Well, now that it's down to individuals, Spain have the better quality individuals. They're going to tuck away their penalties fine, while Morocco, probably kind of nervous, probably not the same level of quality, probably going to miss some. And then I just got proven wrong. So, I mean, again, I called Morocco beating Spain in the last video. Totally shocked that I managed to be right about that, especially after seeing it go to penalties. But Bono with the saves was phenomenal. And he made some great saves throughout the game as well. In my opinion, his price just shot up, and Sevilla's going to probably be holding on to him really tightly. Like, nope, he's not going anywhere. He's our player. We don't want to sell him. But he just made a name for himself. And I think a lot of these Moroccan players, they are making names for themselves in this tournament. Obviously, a couple of them you already know from the Premier League. A couple of them play. I think Hakimi plays for Bayern, I think. So there are a couple that do play at the top level, but there are some that I'd never heard of before this tournament. Now I'm starting to know who they are. I'm looking them up, and they're playing for like a mid-level Spanish side or Italian side. It's just all around the board, and I think that's kind of one of the fun things about the World Cup is you get to see some of these players that maybe you don't know that much about, but then they show out in the tournament. They have a great tournament, and then they go to Bayern Munich and then get loaned out to Swansea, and then you never see them again. Although Renato Sanchez showed out at the Euros, not the World Cup, but same difference. James Rodriguez, there you go. There's your World Cup reference. But yeah, so for Morocco, though, great victory. It's great to see kind of the underdog story happen, so I'm glad we still have at least one left, because all the other ones got beat. And some of them got beat handily, like in the Portugal-Switzerland game, which of all of the results that I called, this is the one that I probably had no clue how bad it was going to be. Because I knew Portugal was probably going to win. I did not expect them to just blow Switzerland away. But we are seeing kind of a habit where you drop Ronaldo and suddenly you're playing out of your mind. So, well, I'm not a big fan of Ronaldo, so I don't mind seeing him get dropped and then his team do well. The fact that it's Portugal and Man U that are doing well without him is not a good thing because I don't like either of those teams. But yeah, I mean, Portugal played fantastically. Switzerland, they didn't come to play. I mean, of all of the teams, they will be the most disappointed to leave because they were pathetic. Like, you look at all the other matches, U.S. gave Netherlands a game at times throughout the match. Australia really tested Argentina. South Korea, they tried. They were lucky to make it out of the group stage from where they were. So, of all of the teams that got knocked out, though, Switzerland will have to look at it and say, God, we didn't come to play. I mean, Portugal are a good team, and they showed it. They showed their quality. They're not the best team at the tournament, but Switzerland made them look like one of the best teams at the tournament. And the one guy, forget his first name now. His last name's Ramos, but calling him Ramos makes me think of Sergio Ramos. I'm like, that's not him. But, I mean, he, with the hat trick, but even outside of that, his performance, his runs, he looked good. And I didn't watch a lot of the match. When I was sort of glancing over and seeing some of the chances created, he was involved with a lot of them. So he definitely raised his price tag as well. I think, who did I see that he played for? Benfica. That's right. So another team that's not really one of the big sides, and when you have a player from your club that does well like that, some of the big clubs are going to come knocking because, I mean, hey, everybody could use a good striker, right? So between Morocco and Portugal, though, who I think is going to go through. As much as I would love to see the underdogs go through, I think this is where Morocco's story ends. I think Portugal probably wins it. I don't think it'll be a handy victory like they had against Switzerland, but I do expect them to win. I think, first of all, they have more quality and depth around the field, but I just, between the two, Morocco, the reason they managed to beat Spain is because I think they were a better team. They had a better team performance. Portugal, I think, are playing well as a team right now too. So because they both are playing well as a team, it's going to come down to who's better quality-wise, who's better talent level-wise, and that's Portugal. So I expect to be a close game, and I expect Morocco to give them everything they've got, but I just think Portugal have more depth. If anybody's getting legged, they can bring somebody on who's probably just as good, if not better, than what they had out there. But I think that'll be about it for this, though. Those are my thoughts on the round of 16 and coming up into the quarterfinals. So as much as I am disappointed, because from a neutral point of view, again, you want to see some of these upsets. You want to see some underdog stories happening at the World Cup. But at the same time, we are getting to see the biggest and best teams play each other in the next round. England versus France, that's going to be a great game. Would it have been as exciting as France versus Senegal? Probably not. So from that point of view, yes, it is exciting that these teams all won and that none of the underdogs made it through. But in the moment, in the now, you look at all of these games, and Morocco is the most exciting match to watch because the underdogs won it. Yeah, that's kind of where my thoughts are on it, and I think that's about it. So let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on these matches and the upcoming matches? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future World Cup reviews, and I'll see you guys at the quarterfinals. Peace out.